ध्यान में रहता है ना। अच्छा, रंभा अकेली नहीं है, इनके पहले हमने मेनका भी भेजा है ना, मैं बताऊंगा आपको, और रुक्मिणी भी भेजा है, उर्वशी रह गई हैं, तो आगे आने वाले टाइम पे उर्वशी भी जाएंगे, बट ये रंभा गई वहां के आयनोस्फीयर पढ़ने के लिए। अगला देखो, चंद्रायन सरफेस थर्मोफिजिकल एक्सपेरिमेंट, पता क्या ही है? थर्मोमीटर बोल सकते थे, लूनार थर्मोमीटर नहीं। क्यों? क्योंकि हमें लिखना था चेस्ट रंभा। और उसके बाद हमने भेजा इस पे इंस्ट्रूमेंट फॉर लूनार सीज्मिक एक्टिविटी। कुछ नहीं, उनके टांगों में सेंसर लगा दिया, बोला अगर टांगे कांपे आपके तो लिख लेना कि यहां भी आता है भूकंप, द लूनार क्वेक्स। So these were the instruments that were carried on Vikram lander. Pragyan had a very simple task. It had to do the surface chemistry study. क्या कैरी करेंगे? स्पेक्ट्रोमीटर। ठीक है। So with these instruments people, ऑर्बिटर में वही कैमरा, स्पेक्ट्रोमीटर, ये सारी चीजें लेके गए। Don't worry much about it. Using exactly the same method, the slingshot strategy, our orbiter plus lander plus rover as a complex went around the moon. अब ध्यान दो, your orbiter high resolution camera, can you see there was one camera in the orbiter? While अभी थोड़ी देर पहले मैंने भौरे का एग्जांपल लिया था, a wasp or a honey bee. I said before touching down on the flower, the honey bee will hover around that flower to first find out whether it is worthy to land there or not. Exactly that. The orbiter high resolution camera, as your object was revolving around the moon, people, it was trying to find out the very right spot around the moon. So as it is revolving around, it is trying to find out the right spot so that it could release the lander and rover. किसको बोलेंगे right spot? An even spot. किसी गड्ढे में गिर जाए अगर, if it gets into the crater, it will be a wasted opportunity. So yes, it released it. This lander and rover, as they were falling down, people, accelerating at a, be a wasted opportunity. So yes, it released it. This lander and rover, as they were falling down, people, accelerating at a high speed, just before it is about to fall down, this Vikram lander, people, it had got 4 rockets at the 4 corners. It fired. As it fired, it slowed it down, and gradually it was coming down. But we all know that just before the touchdown, we lost the communication, and yet there is no official record as to what happened. But it could have had an accelerated, वो पलट गया होगा अगर, तो it would have had a crash. But ये हम लिखेंगे नहीं कहीं, ना इंटरव्यू में बोलेंगे, because there is no official communication as to what caused it. A little saddening because it's been quite some time now. There should be proper investigation brought out to the world. Anyway, this is the most popular graph. Can you see? This is the altitude. Altitude बोले तो height on the moon surface, and this is the distance in kilometers. ये altitude है, downrange. I'm not able to make out. But just understand, as it was going closer and closer to the moon, this is the mid track, which is going perfectly fine. Just about at this, the mid track, which is going perfectly fine. Just about at this point, people, nearly 2 kilometers from the surface of the moon, you can see deviated. And just almost 250 meters to 300 meters, there's a final blip, and we lost all the communication. What happened beyond that, we have no idea. But what happened after that was quite interesting. I'll tell you. I hope all of you remember the entire. Quite interesting. I'll tell you. I hope all of you remember the entire country went into the mode of depression. पूरी कंट्री में रुदाली बटन ऑन कर दिया गया. मीडिया वालों ने बहुत ही मुख्य भूमिका निभाई इसमें, and we were made to believe that everything has been lost. This picture in particular presented a wrong image. Yeah, you see, this is where it reflected that India as a nation has to be expecting a result and crying over not getting it. Doing science is conducting an experiment, analyzing the result and planning the next experiment. When the head of the institution is crying bad, it presents a little bad image. Without a question, it must have been saddening. But to cry in front of the public was a little immature. और मुझे ये बिल्कुल एहसास है, विद ऑल ड्यू रिस्पेक्ट, द प्राइम मिनिस्टर डिड अ ब्रिलियंट जॉब इन galvanizing the entire country in this direction. But at this point in time, I think he erred. ये रो नहीं रहे होंगे, ये बस भरे पड़े होंगे, और कोई भरा पड़ा हो उसको हाथ करके बोलो नहीं, बिल्कुल नहीं रोना है। वो ठीक उसी समय रोएगा, वो ठीक उसी समय रोएगा। ये भी बेचारे रो पड़े, है ना। अक्रॉस द वर्ल्ड दे वर ऑल सेलिब्रेटिंग। अच्छा, इन सब में एक चीज हमसे गड़बड़ी हुई, वी वर फेलिंग टू सेलिब्रेट द फैक्ट that fine lander and rover, had they landed, it would have been a reason to rejoice. But you know what was the time period for which orbiter was sent to the moon? For just 1 year. And you know how much life has it got now? 7 years. How is this possible? Because the entire mission was conducted so precisely that it could save its fuel, and now with the saved fuel, the orbiter will live around the moon for 7 years. That's a reason to rejoice or celebrate. बट ना, हमने तो इसमें टीआरपी लेना था, तो पूरे मीडिया वालों ने भी तबाही मचा दी। एनीवे, सो दिस इज अबाउट द स्टोरी। सिंस देन द ऑर्बिटर हैज बीन गोइंग अराउंड द ऑर्बिट एंड हैज बीन जनरेटिंग द डेटा। आ जाते हैं साइंटिफिक फाइंडिंग्स पे और साइंटिफिक आउटकम्स। साइंटिफिक आउटकम्स नंबर 1। अच्छा, साइंटिफिक आउटकम कहां से? द ऑर्बिटर इज फंक्शनल। ओके, गुड। नंबर 1, तो C2 लिखेंगे। C2 has generated additional evidences for the presence of water on the moon surface. On the moon surface. Full stop. It has also established, same point mein likho, it has also established that water is present across the latitudes. And not just in the polar region. तो ये एक मेजर फाइंडिंग है बच्चों, एंड नॉट जस्ट इन द पोलर रीजन। सेकेंड, C2 detected the presence of the minerals of minor elements, like manganese and chromium, minor elements like manganese and chromium, in addition to the major ones discovered earlier. All right, next. C2 also generated very high resolution images of lunar craters, including